Cześć, nazywam się Radek Orszewski i zapraszam Was na Kanban przy kawie. Podcast o tym, jak zwinnie, sprawnie i efektywnie zarządzać pracą. Cześć, witam Was w kolejnym odcinku podcastu Kanban przy kawie. Z tej strony Radek Orszewski i dzisiaj odcinek, który tworzy właściwie, można powiedzieć, pewną koncepcyjną całość z poprzednim odcinkiem. W poprzednim odcinku próbowaliśmy sobie odpowiedzieć na często zadawane pytanie, czy do pracy w Kanbanie potrzebujemy zespołu. Jeśli tego jeszcze nie słuchaliście, jakimś cudem odpuściliście sobie odcinek, to zapraszamy oczywiście do wysłuchania tego odcinka. Chociaż może w krótkiej wersji warto opowiedzieć, że niekoniecznie, ale to nie jest absolutnie prowokacja, która mówi, że w zespołach pracować nie powinniśmy. A zatem jeśli powinniśmy, to jak właściwie te zespoły komponować, co zapewnić i jak, żeby rzeczywiście te zespoły, można powiedzieć trochę roboczo, robiły robotę. Taka gra słów. I tak się zdarza, że ten odcinek i ten temat zbiegają się w czasie z premierą bardzo fajnej książki autorstwa Jima Bensona. Być może pamiętacie go z odcinka o Personal Kanbanie, bo jest jednym z współtwórców tego konceptu. No właśnie, a tym razem książka The Collaboration Equation, a więc można powiedzieć równanie współpracy czy kolaboracji, mówi o tym, kim są właściwie mocni, solidni profesjonaliści, czym są profesjonalne zespoły, mocne zespoły i jak w efekcie uzyskujemy silne, mocne, profesjonalne delivery, a więc wartość dostarczaną przez te zespoły. Zapraszam do wywiadu, tradycyjnie w języku angielskim. W tym wywiadzie porozmawiamy sobie właśnie o tych trzech konceptach. Będzie kilka wesołych historii, będzie kilka bardzo praktycznych, można powiedzieć, wrzutek od Jima, a po wywiadzie na pewno usłyszycie też kilka słów komentarza ode mnie. My guest today is Jim Benson. If you are, I would say, a listener who pay attention to our podcast, you know that probably it's not the first time that I'm going to have an interview with Jim. I just discovered that it was 2 years ago, April 2020, when we talked about Personal Kanban. And I remember that at that time, Jim was telling about the book in progress, about the concept in progress, and I'm happy that it's a perfect timing of his book premiere with the topic of the teams that we touched in the past episode. Because, well, people ask, do we need team if we work in Kanban? I explained that, Kanban is something that you can apply to even a personal work or very abstract work like the whole projects or portfolio, right? So that's maybe not the right question. But of course, in our knowledge work, in our knowledge discovery work, we often say we need teams, and we need teams made of professionals. So before we go to this direction, I would like to ask you, Jim, to introduce yourself to the listeners. Maybe there are people who don't know you yet.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm Jim Benson, author of Personal Kanban, created Lean Coffee with Jeremy Lightsmith, and helped found both the Agile world and the Kanban world in various ways. I've been around forever, and what I like to do is take good ideas from everywhere, and hopefully a few of my own, and help create systems that allow people to work as individuals and as in teams in ways that are more effortless. That doesn't require a lot of thought, that you don't have to babysit your process, but that you set up a culture and a process that just lets you kind of work effortlessly, like with real flow. That's me.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Sounds like an interesting mission, and sounds like after reading your book, I can say you definitely distilled some of these great ideas into your new book. The book has subtitle which starts with strong professionals. So who are professionals, right? Because we like to see ourselves as professionals, we like to see our colleagues as professionals, we want to say we hire professionals. So how do you define them?
So for me, a professional is a person who goes to work and wants to create something that is of high quality, that they're proud of, and that they do that while learning with a group of people. So an individual that is not a professional might be called a craftsperson or a craftsman that will sit alone in their shop and do their little bit of art. But in software or any of the other knowledge work professions, we only work with other people. We only do things with other people, and we only create stuff for other people. So in the book, the collaboration equation, we say individuals in teams create value. That's the equation, individuals plus teams, or there's any number of ways you can draw that equation. But the goal there is to recognize that, in Agile, we've always focused on strong teams, usually to the detriment of both product and people, which is shocking and a little bit frustrating for a lot of us because we got into it to make good product, by paying attention to people. It's kind of weird how it's played out, but that's it. That's a professional for me.
Okay, yeah. Interesting definition. Well, I would put my money on a bet that lots of listeners, like I said, think of themselves as professionals that probably share your definition. And then we have teams, and teams are not groups, right? They, just like you described, an individual who doesn't collaborate with others, he or she could be a craftsperson, right? And we could have a room full of such people, but we rather would like to see a space, or today a virtual space, people working remotely. We're going to probably touch this topic later, but yeah, collaborating actively. And how do you define then a team? And yeah, where is this collaboration word in this equation?
So a team is two or more people who have come together to achieve a goal.
Short but strong definition.
Yeah, uncharacteristic for me.
Yeah, okay. So I'll share my point of view with a question: why are we so bad in making teams and making teams efficient reaching these goals?
So, because we're human.
Managers are also human, yeah.
Yes. So teams end up being a very complicated thing. It's like we think, well, we'll just get together and do this stuff and we'll be a team and everything will be great. But what happens is when you form any group of human beings, and that group of human beings has an identity, they defend that space, that kind of social territory. And so almost every strong Agile team I've ever seen is itself a silo. And then even within the team, there are many silos. So I can't count the number of times that I've seen an Agile team using a Kanban, and they have great flow through the first 4 or 5 columns of their board. And then they have this huge bottleneck and no one cares. And the reason is because that bottleneck is the tester.
Oh, okay. That's a different
within
species.
The team. Yes. Within the team, they even have the silos of the developers and the testers.
Yeah.
And whenever we run into dependencies in companies, it is literally because our teams are so strong that the collaborative structure that the work requires doesn't match the political structure of the teams. That's what a dependency is.
Okay.
So we're bad at it because of any number of psychological constructs, but they all come down to one thing, is that once you come down to a definable unit of people, they will draw a boundary around that group of people, and then they will look for other groups of people who might,
in a tribal way,
invade, attack, or otherwise mess up their little nirvana.
Okay. I know it's a very wide question. Do you have idea how to break this cycle, how to heal the situation?
Well, the first is how to break that cycle without removing the benefits of having teams.
Yeah, because that's probably not something that we would like to sacrifice.
Yeah, exactly. So individuals running around doing whatever needs to be done equals value doesn't work. Because the big thing that we get out of teams is an ability to communicate and coordinate important information at the time that it's important. So that's like really important. We don't want to lose that. But what we do want to lose is we're the tiger team and you're the leopard team, and we hate the leopards and we hate the tigers, or we're the development group and we want this much money, so we're going to fight against the database group. We want to make sure that when we set up our structures in our companies, that we recognize that we're all there to create a product
Mhm.
and that we all have a role to create that product, and that we don't lose sight of that role and how that role touches other groups. So if I'm in group A and there's groups B, C, D, and E, and during this sprint or this month, I have a bunch of work in group A that touches groups B and D, then we should get together with groups B and D and plan our work together.
Mhm.
So for that month, we should understand that there's a big overlap in what our backlogs are, what our responsibilities are. And if we work together on those things, plan together on those things, release together on those things, we'll have a lot less problems. So the professionalism part of that needs to come in by having mechanisms that we build where people can put their hands up and say, wait. We need to work with these other people
Mhm.
in order to produce something of quality. So in Thinking Fast and Slow, Daniel Kahneman talks about system 1 and system 2 thinking,
Right.
where system 1 thinking is basically your knee-jerk reactions to things, how you would do something very quickly. Some stimulus comes in and you react to it.
Mhm.
And then system 2 is thinking about it and having the appropriate reaction. This is exactly the same thing. Work comes in and we can either just take it in and pretend like those other groups don't exist, or we can have something that triggers that system 2 behavior where we actually say, hey, let's think about this professionally, thoughtfully.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Jim, for explanation. Looking into your book, I found two really stunning examples. First one is about this word bank, a crazy idea that you start the book with, right? And maybe we're not going to disclose all the details to possible potential readers, right? But you put people who are professionals definitely into, well, a very initially inconvenient, awkward situation, right? But then it succeeds, right?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, that's the only story that's repeated between the Personal Kanban book and the new book. And the crux of the story, very quickly, just for the listeners, is there was a group of people at the World Bank. The team had never met each other. They were from all over the world. And they needed to write a very important manual about how to distribute carbon credit money to local landowners around the world. And they needed to write this in a week. Why? I don't know. It wasn't my constraint, but that was the constraint. And so they all gathered and they were assuming they were going to fail. And so they were just set up for that. And what we did was we made them pair right. So we took a page out of Kent Beck's books and said, you were chapter 3 and you were chapter 8 and you were chapter 2 and you were chapter 7. Well, you two were 3 and 8, you two were 2 and 7, completely arbitrary, but we made them pair right. And then every 20 minutes we stopped them and said, how far are you on your work? And do you have any questions for each other? And the reason that we did that is because we wanted to quickly build a system that forced them.
Forced.
And I'm gonna use that word, forced, because in Agile we really like servant leadership.
No tree hugging, force. Yeah.
Well, we forced them. There was no room for, hey guys, what do you want to do? Because we only had a week. We forced them to talk to each other. So we didn't force them to type faster or work harder. We forced them to process the work as a group, to mob, in software parlance. This was in 2009. This was quite a while ago. But the point of all of that was to create a quick collaborative structure where they identified the delivery of the work ahead of their own delivery of ego. So before that, they were all in little silos because there were 12 people there and there were 12 chapters in the book, and each person was a subject matter expert on each chapter. Natural silos that would be unbreakable if we didn't do something absolutely crazy like that. And an emergency, my friend John Shook from Lean Enterprise Institute often says, never let a good emergency go to waste.
Absolutely.
That was a good emergency.
Yeah, great story. I encourage all the listeners to go deep into the story as you describe it in the book. The second which comes to my mind is something what I witness very often, that we have group of professionals who don't see themselves as the team because, well, they have separate tickets, just like the library corporation. I think that was the name, if I'm correct. And you prove that even if we have people in call centers, in customer support, in IT administration, all these works that we see, at least superficially, that they don't create one product, because that's not the new product, that's not new software development, etc. There's this simplification. Well, these are just groups of people, maybe before COVID sitting in one space, now even sitting remotely in different places all around the world, right? And solving cases of single tickets. But suddenly there's a backlog of unwanted tickets or unsolved tickets, and you also made them a team.
Yeah, 3 teams. And so initially they were the customer support team. There were 24 of them. And basically everybody went to work and became angry with everybody else, because when you're not working with other people, you really do end up working against them, even if it's unintentional. And you begin to, when you're isolated, so any isolationism at all causes paranoia. So, if you are torturing somebody, the first thing you do is you put them in isolation. You take them away from the input of the rest of the world. So regardless of whether it's a company, a team, a group, or whatever, when you form that isolation of the silo, the preeminent thing you do is limit the flow of information. And then you become ignorant very, very quickly. So these people were all sitting at their desks working away, having actually great success. The customers loved them as people, but onboarding took forever. And if there was ever a problem, it was really hard to solve it because no one actually knew what was going on. They just kind of understood the product being the software, not the product being the provision of good customer support. And so that is where customer support groups, we've worked with many of them since then. That's where they always get screwed, because the company views the product as the pseudo tangible code or the thing they see online or what's happening on the phone or whatever. But what they don't see is the product is the full customer experience of interacting with the company. And if any company like Zappos sort of did that, and other companies have famously sort of tried to do that. But if they really did it, customer support wouldn't be a cost center anymore. It'd be one of the most important parts of the company.
Yeah. That's what makes us coming back, right? Or not ending the contract or subscription, right? How do we treat it afterwards? Yeah. Great story.
Mm-hmm. And then how do we learn what the customer's experience is, and in a routine, respectful, and organized way, get that information back to product owners and developers so that real improvement to the product happens at a pace that is somewhat synced with the expectations of the users. And that just never happens now. And it's so painful to watch such great people in the support groups just get mistreated all the time.
Yeah, but I think it's also painful to be a customer of such companies, right? Like we call them, we mail them, we chat with them, and suddenly the great, magic experience is broken, not because they are unprofessionals, right? But they work in such setup.
Yeah. They don't have agency, and they don't have the actual ability to solve your problem unless your problem is a workaround or a training issue. But me, I'm a walking edge case. There is no system I touch where I can't come up with a problem where people are like, I've never seen that before. Well, how could you use it that way? I am that guy.
Okay, yeah. Sounds like fun professionally. Jim, there's also a very precise way of trying to build such team of professionals. I'm referring to right environment exercise. For the listeners, this is the biggest part of the book, I believe, where you expose the readers to multiple modules, exercises, which they can later take with their teams. In this story, I'm not going to ask you to tell the details because I think it's also great visually in the book. So that would be a waste. We are like audio podcast. That's the first thing. And second, the book is great also visually. But I found, I even have the book open here, the eternal problem loop, which makes me really laughing reading it. You found a cycle that it's repeating over and over again, even though, like you referred, they're like lean teams having their Kaizen events, they're agile teams having retros, they are Kanban teams having whatever flow reviews or something like this, and we still make the same mistakes over and over again. So what do you believe is like, broken with us?
What is broken with us? I love it. Yeah, we are broken. So, wow, I think that was like a very, very old Human League song. We are broken. Before they got happy, before they got the girls and got happy. So the eternal problem loop is exactly that. You have a retrospective, you go into the retrospective, you talk about all these great problems, you come up with all these solutions, and then you go back to work doing new features and no one does any of the problems. And then you come back in the next retrospective and people do the same thing. And then the next one, and they do the same thing. And about 4 or 5 into that, people are like, this is starting to feel like a waste of my time. And then they say things like agile doesn't work, or they say things like retrospectives don't work. And it's like, no, you don't work. You're not doing what you said you were going to do. And so the biggest problem is that we have feature fetish, where everybody wants to build new features, but no one wants to actually either make the culture better or the process better or even the product better. And so for the 5 years right before COVID, I used to be, if you went to an agile conference, I would be there. For like a decade. It didn't matter where on earth it was. I was like at every conference. And then I just disappeared from them all. And it was because I met the most unexpectedly awesome company in New York, which is a construction company called Turner Construction. And I didn't, through the whole time I was there, touched almost no code, just built skyscrapers and hospitals and things that cost billions of dollars. And they had a concept when I arrived called the right environment, which was something that I immediately got behind, which is you basically make sure that professionals have everything they need to do a professional job. So Turner gets a new project in New York. It's literally worth $1 billion. It's better funded than almost any startup in history, right? It's what you would sell your startup for, is what they start with. They have to bring together a group of people from a bunch of different disciplines and a bunch of different trades and a bunch of different things to build this building. And so they start off with this right environment by building a right environment. Our right environment exercise is tailored to knowledge work, so it's different than what they do. But in essence, what you're doing is you're recognizing up front that if we don't have a real culture of continuous improvement before we start, we can never add one later. You can't staple it on after you've already created kind of this cultural damage. So what this thing is a series of 5 exercises. It takes a week, and it basically defines what is the work that you're going to be doing, who are you going to be doing it with, who are you, why are you here, what do you want, what information do you need, how does that information flow, where is it hidden, where blah, 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 blah. It's all in the book, but it's a week, so it's a lot of work. But from the scale of the project, it's a short amount of time. It is the foundation on which you will build your projects and your teams in the future.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for the explanation. I'm wondering, we probably have listeners who are thinking now, oh, that's great. I would like to do it with my team, but maybe my team already exists. We already have some, baggage, right? So like,
Most teams do already exist.
yeah, exactly. So what do I do? Do I fire them and I hire new people to do the exercise with you?
Yeah. No. So through all of COVID, we've done this. Oh my God, over 40 times during COVID, like 40 weeks worth of this during the last 2.5 years. It's been crazy and rewarding and awesome. And all of these teams, maybe except for 1 or 2, already existed. And the 1 or 2 came in and said, we're not sure we can do this because we don't exist yet. So the first thing that we do when we start out with is we do an exercise called a value stream mapping exercise, which in Lean just basically said, how does stuff flow down this assembly line? But what we do with that is we basically say, where are the relationships, both manufacturing of code sort of way, like we come up with a feature here, we type some stuff here, we get some stuff here. So there's that, but then there's also the learning, onboarding, blah, 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 blah. There's a million relationships in your value stream. And what we find in existing teams, there's a lot of pain in those relationships. And it doesn't matter if it's a team in South Africa or it's in Germany or it's in Poland or it's in the US or it's in Korea. It doesn't matter. People hurt each other every day when they go to work, even if they really like each other, because the way that the work is
Mm.
structured makes them interact in a unprofessional, uncollaborative, or otherwise unenjoyable way. And lots of times you just don't know. So if somebody before you has a piece of, like, let's just say, for example, just right now, just for sake of argument, you are a QA person and somebody before you writes a bunch of code. You get the code, it's poorly formatted, it's hard to read, it's, code. And, and then you say to them a couple of times, I really wish that you would do something, write cleaner code or come see me or do this or do that. And they're like, yeah, that'd be great. But that's not a system. Like, you asking somebody for something isn't a system. So even if you have the best of intentions and they have the best of intentions, the moment things get busy, that's not going to happen. So it's why in Kanban we have bigger boards than just ready, doing, and done, because we need that transition from something visible to something else visible that says, at this time, you as a professional need to talk to these other people. That's so important. And I'll just close with this. I know my answers are really long today.
No, I mean, first of all, you gave the hope for existing teams, which is already great.
There is hope for existing teams, yes. But what happens in these meetings is that they see very clearly that the things that they have asked for in the past end up hurting them. And in Agile, the biggest part of this is developers tend to not want to plan the work. So they're like, that's for the product owner, or that's for the product owner team, or that's for the PM and the blah, 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 blah. It's for someone else. And so then what happens is someone comes to you and they say, do this weird, vague thing. And they probably conceived of it in an unbuildable way to begin with. And then they add insult to injury by changing that into a user story, which is so vague. Yes, you can software craftsperson all over it, but you're going to build the wrong thing every time. Not sometimes.
If you're gonna build anything, first of all, yeah, like I love what you're saying because I very often explain to the teams that for me, activities like sprint planning or whatever, this is like preparing for the game of Tetris, right? You have all the bricks, yeah, and you can use them in a way to form a row and score the points, or just to make the whole board full with not fitting bricks, yeah, and you cannot undo it, yeah.
Yeah. Tetris would be a lot easier if you organized your pieces beforehand.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
And you can do that. And that's the big hopeful message, is that collaborative planning is so important. And what we found during COVID is, across the board, around the world, more and more teams that previously said, just tell us what to do, are now saying, stop just telling us what to do. We really need to know why we're doing this. And that has been such a beautiful thing to watch. So when we do that initial exercise and lay out the value stream map, it shows everywhere where there are those communication, information, or other breakdowns, collaborative breakdowns. And they're often really this easy to fix. Hey, could you guys talk? Yeah. The solutions are often extremely easy. And it's shocking how often we will live in substandard environments when there are really, really easy solutions to making that awesome environments.
Great story. When you're now talking about it, it reminded me actually one of the last episodes of Hidden Brain podcast about mind reading, like how try to be good in mind reading, someone's intentions and not talking to this person. And then, we try to master something that does not exist, right? And then we have the blame culture, and then we have assumptions about someone acting, like you're saying, against us. Okay, Jim, final point, which I believe is now clear for the listeners, but there is a chance not only for existing teams, but I guess also for distributed teams.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So now we're working in a world where we've got completely distributed teams where they're spread around the world. And we also have hybrid teams where people are some co-located, some spread around the world. And then we have what I think is most companies right now, which is most people are in the same city, but still working from home. And then you get dumb ideas like, hey guys, let's just come into the office 3 days a week randomly. Well, I got bad news for you. People randomly coming into the office is the most idiotic thing any human being could ever ask for. So what we've done is we've said, look, okay, you guys is a corporate mandate that you come in 2 days a week, let's say. This is what we've got to do. When we're having our right environment exercise, we have to ask ourselves, what is it that we want to do alone? And what is it that we want to do together? And then when we get together, let's do that. And then when we go home and we're like, let's say, so actually typing code does happen. You do sometimes do that without other humans around. And it's really annoying doing it while Slack is going tick, 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 because the whole time you're there going, I wonder what they're saying. I wonder if they're talking about me, So we say, can you divide up the collaborative acts? Can you go to the office and use the hell out of the whiteboards? Everyone's always in the same room. Everybody always has a whiteboard pen. That you never schedule meetings during those days that don't happen in a room with the people in it. And then when you're home, so now we have this opportunity to optimize for group focus and for solo focus. That's exciting. And so my team can't do that because we got rid of our office entirely actually before COVID. So we've started trying to do that where we set aside different parts of different days and we say this is a collaborative working session time. And then other times we're plugging away on things. So we're working a lot with German companies right now. So we wake up at 5:00 in the morning. So from 5 to like 8 or 9 in the morning, that's just client time. Then we have a stand up. Then based on what we need to do each day, beyond that, we'll either just stay in the stand up call and we'll work together the rest of the day in Miro or whatever, or IOBEA. And then on the other days, we will focus. So your distributed team, I'll close with this, your distributed team needs to pay strict attention to how it cares for the professionals on the team. And if your professional is always operating in a vacuum, that professional will atrophy and their value to the team and the company and the product will decay. So we need time to work together, not just because it's fun or because it's huggy, but because for the same reason your computer no longer has 386 chip in it. Single-threaded environments produce slow, crappy work. Our job as a team is to process information as a team, which means we have to think together. We have to create together. We have to build the thing together. and this, you can tell I get really worked up about this because this is the thing that we miss because we're so used to being handed tasks from a very early age and saying, you go do this by yourself. And every problem the world has right now grows out of that personal isolation. And we got to stop that.
Yeah. Let's start with your teams. So that's my suggestion. If you want to look into more ideas that Jim just described, I read the book really fast and I'm pretty sure I make a lot of bookmarks to come back to ideas, so that's what I encourage you to do. I guess the book is also now in Kindle version available.
It
Yeah.
is in a Kindle version. The book is extremely beautifully laid out.
Yeah, exactly. So I already said it, so I recommend to grab a paper copy. Jim, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to have you here, and thank you for all the ideas that you sold us here, that you, like I said, distilled into the book that I and probably not only myself but other listeners were waiting for. So yeah, huge thanks.
Beautiful. Thank you for having me again. This was awesome.
Ten wywiad był tak fajny, że postanowiłem w tym odcinku nie wrzucać żadnej przerwy informacyjno-reklamowej. Nie wiem jak wy, ale ja w trakcie rozmowy z Jimem miałem naprawdę takie poczucie płynności tematów, takiego flow, naprawdę dobrego humoru. Może tutaj zdradzę prywaty, że jeszcze zakończyliśmy bardzo wesołą dyskusją o Star Treku Deep Space Nine. Ale no właśnie, co w tym odcinku, co w tym wywiadzie? Na pewno jesteśmy przekonani do tego, że warto te zespoły mieć, że warto, żeby te zespoły składały się z tych profesjonalistów, ale tak jak Jim stawia hipotezy, no żaden profesjonalista w dzisiejszym świecie, nawet jeśli pisze rzeczywiście okazjonalnie kod sam, nie pracuje sam. I zespołowość czy siła tego zespołu nie zależą tylko i wyłącznie od tego, że mamy samych ninja, rockstar, deweloperów, testerów, designerów czy marketingowców, ale właśnie od tej interakcji. Ta interakcja, pewne porozumienie co do tego, jak my się komunikujemy, musi wynikać z kultury. W książce Jima jest opisany taki szczegółowy koncept, który rozbija się na kilka kroków. Pierwszym krokiem jest właśnie w ogóle zbudowanie pewnej mapy, tak jak on opowiadał, zastosowania troszkę podkręconego value stream mappingu, a więc mapowania strumienia wartości od końca do początku, a więc trochę zgodnie z taktyką przesłuchaniową FBI, po to, żebyśmy w ogóle wiedzieli, co my robimy, jak to wygląda. Drugi aspekt to jest właśnie taki, można powiedzieć, charter, takie ustanowienie, po co my właściwie tutaj jesteśmy i czyja praca wspólna taką wartość dostarcza. Następnie zbudowanie pewnego porozumienia, jeżeli chodzi o komunikację. Nie chcę tutaj w ciągu kilku minut sprzedawać całej koncepcji, bo to były dopiero 3 kroki. Natomiast to, o czym rozmawiamy z Jimem, jest na pewno dające nadzieję, że nawet jeśli macie już zespół, nawet jeśli ten zespół jest hybrydowy czy jest rozproszony, to tak na dobrą sprawę zbudowanie takiego zespołu, czy odkręcenie troszkę tego, że czasami zaczynamy pracować jako grupa indywiduów, jest możliwe i myślę, że to jest bardzo fajna nadzieja. Natomiast bardzo wiele jest niestety, powiedziałbym, czy polityk, ale też trochę blokad w naszych głowach o tym, że ktoś robi coś przeciwko nam, ktoś nas nie rozumie, a więc wiele tych blokad zastanych stanów, tak można by się znowu pobawić słowami, jest w naszych głowach i warto od tego odejść. Jestem ciekaw, jakie wy stosujecie techniki po to, żeby budować tą zespołowość i to nie tylko i wyłącznie w takim ujęciu dobrego samopoczucia, chociaż oczywiście ono jest potrzebne, podobnie jak bezpieczeństwo psychologiczne, jak otwartość. Być może macie alternatywne metody, swoje własne, być może też z innych narzędziowników. Jeśli tak, dajcie znać. Ja oczywiście sam książkę kupiłem i przeczytałem i namawiam gorąco do tego, żeby na tą półkę ją u siebie postawić, a najlepiej po przeczytaniu. Książka jest bardzo bogata też wizualnie, więc wersja papierowa na pewno jest fajna. Jeśli nie, to możecie też skorzystać, tak jak Jim opowiadał, z wersji na czytnik Kindle. Myślę, że to jest naprawdę dobra pozycja dla każdego, komu przyjdzie budować zespoły. No i tyle. Wiemy, że zespoły są potrzebne, wiemy nawet jak je budować, wiemy jakich błędów unikać i pracy z takimi zespołami, w takich zespołach Wam oczywiście gorąco życzę. Tyle na dzisiaj. Dzięki wielkie, pozdrawiam i do usłyszenia. Mówił Radek Orszewski.